Hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Noble Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have 5 books that you need to add to your TBR right now and read. I promise you, you're not going to be disappointed in these books. These books were so interesting to read for me. They're just books that I think about still after I've read them. And I think a lot of people would enjoy them if they pick them up. I have a mix of historical fiction, historical romance, romatasy, and dark romance. And with all that being said, let's just go ahead and dive right into these books that I think that everyone needs to add to their TBR. The first book I want to talk about is The Women by Kristen Hanna. So this is actually my latest 5-star read that I recently read. I listened to the audiobook in one day. I could not put this down. And this is a big book. This is over 400 pages. So I'm a huge fan of historical fiction. I absolutely love reading the genre. And I want to fall back in love with historical fiction again because I haven't really read a lot in 2023. I am making sure that in 2024 I read a decent amount. So this book was so good. This is about the women who have gone off to the Vietnam War, who have served as nurses over in Vietnam in different units and at different parts and different times of the war. Mainly this book follows Frances's story, or Frankie as she's known, and when her brother enlists and goes in as an officer into the Navy, he is shipped off to Vietnam, and she's like, I want to do that. I don't want to sit here in sunny California and just be a nurse and just get married and just live my life that way. I want my life to have purpose. I want it to have meaning. And when she realizes that she can try and enlist and go over into Vietnam to, one, be closer to her brother, but also have a purpose, she does it. She goes to the Navy recruiting office. They say you have to have 2 years of stateside service, which she's not going to get there as soon as possible. The same thing for the Air Force. So she goes to the Army and she enlists into the Army. They send her to boot camp and basic training, and she is shipped off within 6 months over to Vietnam. And when she gets there, everything is not what the news has been telling the American people. The Vietnam War, they're losing. The Americans are losing this war. If you don't know anything about the Vietnam War, there's not always things taught about it, but it was brutal. It was horrific. It was, I think if I'm not mistaken, the most American casualties in a war that we've ever had. So it was a lot, and her eyes were really open. She is, working almost 12-hour, sometimes 15-hour days to just, bring these men, to try and get these men, put back together, and trying to survive their injuries that are just horrific. So a lot of stuff happens. It is a beautiful story. She falls in love. She has these romantic relationships at times just for comfort and peace. There's also this very strong female bond that she has with 2 other people that she's rooming with over in Vietnam. There are 2 other nurses that they work with, and that carries over to when she goes home. You also see the PTSD that she suffers and how the vets, when they come home from Vietnam, are not taken care of. So it is a story of many years, and I just loved it. I loved every second of it. I want more people to read this, and just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. I just want more people to read it. I love this book. Absolutely love this book. It made me realize how much I love historical fiction and why I love historical fiction. So the next one I want to talk about is actually a romantasy that I recently read. And I would say it's more of a fantasy, and that is The Road of Bones by Demi Winter. So when I read this book, I gave it 4 stars. It is a solid book that I would recommend to a lot of people. And while the first 50% of this book is slow, and that's why I didn't give it a full 4.5, 5 stars, I think that the potential for the series is really good, and that's what I see in this book. We follow our female character. You see that she is living in this town. No one has magic, but if you are caught using magic, you are basically executed and you are stoned. We're taking it back, okay? We're taking it back. When she witnesses someone get stoned, these people get stoned, she's kind of taken back. And the father that she thought that was her father is not actually her father. So she's learning all of these secrets, and, she goes on this really big journey because the queen is after her. The queen wants to take her to, they don't want to kill her. They want to take her to the queen, where she overhears, and she escapes people that are trying to come after her. I'm trying not to say too much. I'm trying to be vague about it because I don't want to spoil anything, but she meets this group of people and she goes on the journey with them through the Road of Bones. They are, they say, oh, I'll protect you. I'll help you get to wherever you're going after the Road of Bones. But the Road of Bones has a lot of creatures and, magical things that come up and people attacking you. And it's not safe. It's not safe for a woman to travel by herself. So, she gets really close to all of these people. I love the found family aspect. I love the group of people. The romantic elements are interesting. That's all I'm going to say. I was like, I don't know who she's going to be with. And you find out who it is, but it's very interesting. I had a great time reading it. I listened to the audiobook and read along. The second book is actually on my March TBR, and it came out on February 21st. So it's a brand new release. It's called The Kingdom of Claw. I'm very excited to read this book because this ends on a cliffhanger where I'm like, I did not expect that, but I want more people to read it. The next one I have is actually a romantasy that I gave 5 stars. It was the first book of the year that I read in the first 5-star read of the year, and that was Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. This is a romantasy where our female character is really strong. She knows her powers. She knows how to use them. She knows how to fight. And our hero in this book is like her equal, just in a man's body. And they have to ally together because she wants to get her kingdom back. You see that she was taken away from her kingdom from her uncle because her parents, specifically her father, was just like caging her, not letting her explore her magic and her powers and her abilities because he was afraid that she could overtake him, which she could. The whole thing with her and her father kind of resents her is that when she was born, a seer came to her house and laid 5 dragon eggs at the base of her like bassinet, which basically means these 5 dragons are now attached to her and bonded to her. Now, when she leaves, she has to leave those 5 dragons and she wants to get them back. So it's kind of like a continuation with this story. I love the first, the dragons aren't that big of a part in this book. I think in the second book, they definitely are going to be. I had the best time reading it. I love a strong female character where she knows what she has to do to ally with another person, ally with another kingdom to get what she wants. And that's basically what happens. I love the romance in here. It's very romantic, very kind of swoon worthy, but like super strong. Like they both are set in their ways in like a good way. I loved it. I want more people to read this book. I had the best time with this. I love just the world building. I thought it was easy to get into. And I can't believe the second book's not coming out until 2025. I'm very sad about that. The next one I want to talk about is a dark romance, and that is Cadia by Carrie Lake. So I gave this book 4 stars, 1, because I thought it was too long. I think the first like 20, 30, 40% could have been cut down a lot, but I see what Carrie Lake did with these characters. So you see our female character, she has to watch her mom suffer from this illness where it's very creepy. There's a lot of blended genres and subgenres into this. It's like horror, a little bit of dark academia, a lot of gothic elements, and a lot of dark romance. Our hero is a definitely morally gray character. I really loved him. I actually really loved him. But he is her professor. You see that once her mom dies, her sister has to go into this specific like mental college, I guess you can say, for her mental health. And they had to pay for her to be there. She needs that. You see that she has never like gone after anything for herself, but she is offered a full ride scholarship to Cadia University. It's a very like creepy when she goes, like, I don't know. It just is very like atmospheric. I had a really good time reading this book. Actually, I'm not one that can do horror things, but I actually enjoyed this. I think it blended a lot of those subgenres together well, and it made for a really good story. Our female character goes on the journey, okay? But she also starts having feelings for her professor, and her professor, like I said, is a morally great character. He does a lot of things. He is trying to research this, I don't want to call it a parasite, but basically like you can ingest these things and they like grow inside of you and then like kill you from the inside out, which basically happened to her mother. So that's why she's at Cadia. She wants to learn more about it. She wants to be like a scientist, like researcher, stuff like that. It was just a fun and wild time. I'm glad I read it, and while it is on the longer side, I am still glad I read it, and I would recommend it to those who want a gothic, dark academia book that will actually keep you reading, and that's what this book did, because I was a little creeped out by this book, but it was a very good time. I have a whole dark academia reading vlog that I did for you guys where I read like 4 different dark academia books, and this was one of them. But I would recommend it to a lot of people, especially if you love dark romance, but you want something like different in the dark romance genre, if you know what I mean. And the last book that I have to talk about is a historical romance. Along with historical fiction, I want to read more historical romance. So I want to recommend The Notorious Lord Knightley by Lorraine Heath. Lorraine Heath is a beloved historical romance author to me. I love her to death. I've read a lot of her backlist, and I've always enjoyed her books. This was a 5-star read for me. I loved this. Second chance historical romance. Our female character you see is this writer. She has wrote this erotic book that has taken London and the Ton by storm because they're like, oh my God, how could someone write this? Like, it's so naughty, it's so graphic. But they're like, oh, who is this man though? The man is Lord Knightley, and they have had a previous relationship where he left her at the altar. So she's like a scorned woman, and she is not going to fall for his games again. Not going to fall for it. There are some parts of this book, towards the, like 20 or 30%, some secrets come out that I was not expecting that took this book to like the next level. I love a groveling hero. I love a second chance romance. It's one of my favorite things to read. I want everyone to read this historical. This is technically the second book in the Chessmen Masters of Seduction series, but you can read them out of order. I did not read the first book. I read just this one by itself because they follow different people. The third book actually just came out. I ordered the paperback in my library. I have the audiobook on hold at my library. I cannot wait to read the next book. That one, I think it was kind of set up at the end of this book of who it could be and who they're paired with, but really you can go into these books completely separate. Mimi's just walking around my library. She's a good girl. Yeah, you good girl. So I would recommend this historical romance to a lot of people. If you want to get back into historical romances again, definitely check out this one. I loved it. But that is all I have for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can let me know if you have a book that you want me to add to my TBR and you want me to read, because I'm always looking for new books to read. For the emoji, what kind of emoji? Drop me a diamond emoji in the comments down below. I don't know why. Just drop me a diamond emoji. That's the one that came to mind in the comments down below if you've made it this far. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.